Welcome to the Financial Coaches Podcast, where we talk about how to build your practice from startup to scale up while being the kind of coach your clients crave. Finally, a podcast for financial coaches. Here are your hosts, Maria Casillas and Cody Sizemore.
Hello, and welcome back to the Financial Coaches Podcast. My name is Cody Sizemore, and I'm joined here by my lovely co-host, Maria Casillas, and we have a decent amount of stuff to talk to you guys about today. But before we get into that, I want to do just a few things first, and just first and foremost say, if you're one of those people who listened to last week, and you even listened to the week before that, and maybe you even listened to the week before that, we just want to say thank you. Because you are what we would call our every weekers. And you guys are literally like the lifeline to this podcast. You're the reason why we keep doing it. Because if we just didn't have anyone listening, I don't know if we'd do this. So thank you for continuing to show up, continuing to listen, sharing the show, giving a rating, giving a review, all that kind of stuff. Like, we just want to say thank you for all that. And if you are an every weeker, but you haven't joined our Facebook group, and if you're a first-time listener and you're like, what? There's a Facebook group? Let me tell you about that for a second. We have a Facebook group. Shocker. And it's something that's really, really awesome. And it's simply called the Financial Coaches Community by New Money Habits. It's free to join. It's growing every day. And there's a lot of really good conversations that happen in there too. It's a good place to ask questions. It's a good place to request certain topics for us to talk about on this podcast. And it's also a really good place to just connect with us, with other like-minded coaches. And there's a lot of opportunities to do that. So, hop in there, say hi, introduce yourself, and let's have some fun. So with all that being said, Maria, how you feeling today?
I'm good. Really good. Thank you for asking.
Good. So I hope you don't mind, but I want to talk about something. And I'm just going to roll straight into it.
Okay. No, I don't mind.
Okay, cool. So the thing I think that I want to talk about is the pros and or cons of offering some sort of like money back guarantee to your coaching services, right? Because there's different schools of thoughts. It depends on who you talk to. Some will say, yes, you should absolutely do that. Some will say, no, you absolutely should not do that. So I think that it's important for us to talk about that because, like, hey, we're just another person to say yes or no. But hey, maybe we'll give whoever's listening a different perspective, and they can kind of take that and run with it, whether they choose to do it or not. So
fair. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are your kind of initial thoughts on things like, do you offer a guarantee? Have you ever considered it or?
Yeah. So some of my initial thoughts are that offering a money back guarantee, as I put myself into the position of the consumer, always gives me that warm, fuzzy feeling. Like if I don't like this, then I know I'm going to be able to get my money back. We're so stuck in that whole Amazon era where it's like, oh, I could just send it right back if I wanted to. So I do know that. And I also know that this is coaching in general, and the results that people get are going to be very subjective. And so it can be a lot harder to just slap a money back guarantee onto something like that. So with my clients, I do offer like a satisfaction guarantee type thing, but they have to have put in the work. I don't just, it can't be like buyer's remorse that they say, oh, right. I gave you this, $2,000 and now I'm really worried about that and I need that back. And so we have to work through their issues before we even offer that. And they don't ask for the money back when they're done, because when they put in the work, they actually get the results that they're hoping for. And so that's kind of been my, I guess, compromise is the way you could put it in terms of offering one, but also making sure that it's not taken advantage of.
Yeah, exactly. So you do offer something along these lines.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right, cool. Yeah. And I do too. And I will say I didn't always. Because I think I started offering a money back guarantee like 2 years ago. So about halfway through my coaching journey, like the first 2 years I didn't, and then after the next 2 years I did. And initially, like that first 2 years, I think that it was probably a mix of fear, but also maybe confidence and potentially even like an imposter syndrome kind of thing.
Like they wouldn't get the results type of thing?
Like I don't know if like people are actually going to get results. I don't know if I'm like really that great kind of thing. So I don't want to risk it kind of thing, But the more, the more experience I got, the more, clients I had under my belt, the more the confidence built, the less the imposter syndrome affected me. And I just made that shift. And I'm really happy that I did. Because I also have a structure too that is similar to what you had said, to where it's like, I'm not just going to give you your money back because you want it, kind of thing.
Or because you're in fear, right? If they're operating out of fear, that's another thing that we need to work through. Before you go into some of the details, though, about what you do, Cody, you were mentioning that for the first 2 years you didn't, then you started. I'm curious to know, was there a shift in people taking advantage of your services? And I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, did they...
Like they enrolled?
Did they enroll at a higher rate or a lower rate with the fact that you had or had not offered one? I'm just curious how that played out for you.
Yes, it increased the enrollment quite a bit, actually.
Okay.
And not only did it increase the enrollment, but it increased the enrollment with my investment raising as well, because that was around the same time that I raised my investment too. So I saw more money coming in more frequently after I implemented the money back guarantee.
Yeah. And I know that this is probably just opinion, but to what do you attribute that increase?
The increase of enrollments?
Yeah. Even though, so, I mean, is it, and I didn't want to ask a closing-ended question, but is it because of that, what I was saying, that, putting ourselves into the consumer standpoint, like it just kind of takes away some of that risk? Do you believe that's what it was? Or was it something completely different, do you think?
I think that's definitely a big part of it. Yes. Okay. Just like the buyer psychology kind of thing. Like it's definitely a big part of it. I also think that it was just me getting better too.
Gotcha.
Like getting better with, the consultations and the enrollment process and, being a better coach and all that kinds of stuff. And that kind of thing, it takes time, it takes reps. But I think that those two things put together is what made that scalability really happen.
Great. Now, and now I give you my permission to jump into some of the details.
All I was going to say is just, I was kind of going to build off of what you said earlier, which is, that you tell people like, hey, I have this, but you have to put in the work to do that. Right. So, and that's the same thing with me. I verbally kind of, explain this to people, during our consultation. I'll tell them, I'll always say like, I'll go through like the different pricing options. And then once I'm done with that, I'll say, but here's the best part. Right. And then I'll tell them, I'm like, I do offer a 100% money back guarantee. And basically what that looks like is, if after the end of the coaching program, you kind of look back and you say, hey, this wasn't what I was expecting. I didn't get the value that I thought I was going to get. And honestly, I feel like I made a mistake by doing this. Then I would just give you back that investment that you're doing now. That's what I'd say verbally. And then during our in writing, I have like a clause in our agreement that basically says like, I do offer a money back guarantee, but in this event, you can go through the program and under the circumstance that you show up and you actively pursue the guidance, suggestions, and tasks that your coach asks. If after all of that is met and you did not receive fair value from the program, I will offer that 100% money back guarantee. This circumstance must be mutually agreed that what was asked and expected was met. So that's really important. Like I'm telling you, like you have this option here, but you gotta actively pursue the guidance, the suggestion, and the tasks. In other words, you gotta put the work in and you gotta show up, right? Yep. And if after all of that is met and you still feel that way, and I also agree that you did do those things, then we need to mutually agree that everything was met, and then I can give you that guarantee. And I think that's pretty fair. I mean, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, just structuring it that way, like, you're not setting yourself up for people taking advantage of you. And quite frankly, if you do your vetting process pretty well with your consultations, you're probably not going to enroll bad people in the first place, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm curious about something because I have my own thoughts on this, but I'm curious about your experience with this. How long have you been doing the satisfaction guarantee, as you call it?
Pretty much from the beginning, but my prices weren't as high in the beginning as they are now.
And you've been coaching for how long again?
About 8 years.
8 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So throughout the last 8 years, how many people have you had to offer this to where they actually ask for their money back?
0.
Okay. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I've had people, much like one of the situations that you and I have discussed here on this show, where they've invested and then kind of had that pause, like, oh crap, what did I just get myself into? And we've had to walk through that. But by the time somebody's gotten to the end of the program, nobody has asked for their money back.
Yeah. And that's the same exact thing for me. I've been coaching for 4 years. I've been offering for 2, and I've had 0 people ask for it. And the majority of the clients that I have had have been within these last 2 years. So I think that is really important to say, because I think that one of the concerns that people would have with offering it is like, well, what if everybody wants their money back? And I think that's a valid concern. But if we're looking at like the reality of it, and with even just 2 people sitting here today, having the same exact experience, to where it's like, well, actually, it's very low percentage that you're going to have to give someone's money back.
Yeah.
That's pretty encouraging in my mind.
I'm going to turn the question around for a second, just to give people a little bit more encouragement along that lines. And I'm going to say, I know that you and I both are consumers of products that are, whether they're self-development, coaching, programs, that kind of thing. And sometimes they're pretty high ticket items, anywhere from 4 figures to 5 figures. And so I'm going to ask you, Cody, how many of those programs or coaching experiences have you asked for your money back on?
To be brutally honest,
yes, that's what I'm hoping for.
Yes, only 1.
Okay, and how did that come about? Like, what was the reason for that ask? Did they follow through? Okay.
So it was a situation that I had hired like a PR firm to help me like get on different websites, or do different interviews, stuff like USA Today and stuff like that, right?
Okay. Yep.
Just because I thought that that'd be a good publicity thing. It's good for visibility. It's also good for credibility, all that kind of stuff. And initially, like when I went through like the whole consultation with them, it sounded really good, and it sounded like everything was going to fall into place. It was going to be pretty simple. There'd be a lot of support, and it just didn't really fall out to be like that. Like I felt like they gave me access to a portal, and it was like, okay, good luck. And I was like, well, how do I do this? And, like, who do I reach out to? And like all these types of things. Right. And, eventually what happened was I was like, this was $6,000, and I haven't gotten publicized in anything, within 6 months kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, partially, I will say that for the first 2 months, I was very invested in like building my pitches and, learning about the whole process and stuff like that. But then the next 4 months, I wasn't seeing very many results. I was putting a lot of time into it. And I said, okay, I'm going to put more time into things I am going to get results with, but I'm still going to try and, keep this running in the background. And that's what I did. And after 6 months of not getting anything, I said, hey, like, here's my experience. Is there any sort of guarantee, blah, blah, blah. And because I remember they said something about that. And theirs was, the first 30 days. If you do everything and within the first 30 days you ask for your money back, it's cool. So I missed that window. So I didn't get my money back. which sucks. But the good news is that like it is a lifetime membership. So, I could like really hop in and be like, yo, like I need extra support like right now. And I could probably get that. But like right now where I'm at, I'm just focused on other things. So it doesn't make sense to me. So that was really my only quote unquote bad experience that I had.
Yeah, and not having known what you were going to say to that, actually, I'm not. It's totally fine. I'm glad that you were brutally honest with that. I'm sorry that you didn't get your money back, and yet that wasn't even really like a coaching program. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't something that where they had to walk you through something. It was almost like a service that was supposed to be done for you, and then it wasn't really done, and you kind of had to do it yourself, and that kind of thing. So it is a little bit different. So even if we take that outlier out of the equation, technically neither you nor I have actually asked for our money back when it comes to something that has been on our shoulders. And there have been times that I've invested a lot of money in something and I haven't necessarily gotten the results. And this is just me being vulnerable right now and saying the chances are that it's because I didn't do all the things that I needed to do. Right. And so because I know that in that moment, there's no way in heaven or hell that I'm going to go and ask for my money back because I know that that's on me. Excuse me. And so I bring that up because I want everyone to know it's not that we are playing on, people's emotions or anything like that, but we realize that usually the person's not going to ask for it because they're going to be embarrassed to ask for it if indeed it was something that was their doing rather than yours. And so don't be shy about this. It is okay to put it out there. And it also, sometimes those things are the things that make me get up and do the things that I really am uncomfortable doing because I know I'm not going to get my money back. I know I'm not going to ask for that back. And so heck, I might as well figure out how to actually make it work.
Yeah. And I appreciate what you just said about how we're not playing on people's emotions. We know that this emotional piece to it can be in our benefit, but we also know that it's going to be in their benefit too.
Right.
Because sometimes it's just the simple fact of I have the potential to get my money back. So that risk factor goes down. And then they just step into something just a little bit more confidently, and they actually get the help that they need. So I wouldn't, if that kind of thought process, crossed your mind as you're listening to this, I'd kind of lay that to rest and look at it with a different perspective that it's not for us, it's really for the client. And that could be the make or break thing. I tell people all the time, I mean, I can't tell you how many times people have said, well, with this guarantee, it's kind of like a no risk scenario, and that's why I tell people too. I'm like, the worst case scenario is that you're going to hop into this program. You're going to get all these new tools and, you're going to learn more about yourself. You're going to see a lot of progress and you get your money back. Like that's the worst case scenario. The best case scenario is that everything works beautifully and you go tell 10 of your friends about me. Right. So it really does create that comfortability side of things for people, which is really, really important, especially in this area to where like the number one thing that they're worried about is money. Like if you can take that off of their shoulders, man, oh man, it's just going to be so beneficial to both you and them.
Yeah, I agree. And one other thing I'll add, and then we can wrap up, is that while people are showing up, they know, okay, I've got this idea over here. Like maybe I can get my money back if I want to, but since they know that, they don't have to show up with the, oh, I hate this, or in a different scenario, like what you did with the advertising company, or whatever you call it, the PR company, you just stopped showing up. Like once you lost interest in it altogether. And now that you're not getting your money back, now it's just like, well, that's money lost. And yes, in the back of your mind, you could go back, but you haven't. And so what we're doing for our clients is actually, without saying it, we're encouraging them to show back up for themselves over and over again, despite what they think about what's going on, either with the program that we're offering them or the circumstances that they found themselves in. And so it really does add that other layer of encouragement too.
I love that you said that because honestly, I never really even thought about it that way. But you're absolutely right. Like that's a huge part of it. So I'm really happy you said that because that even makes me feel better. It just reaffirms what I'm doing, So that's awesome. Love that. Love it. Alrighty, guys. Well, hey, if you want to do a guarantee, do the dang thing. If you don't want to, no sweat. But I will say, me and Maria do it, and we have a pretty good time with it, pretty good experience with it. So maybe try it out, see how it goes. But with all that being said, we're not going to take up any more of your time today. Thank you guys for listening. We'll be back next week for another episode of the Financial Coaches Podcast. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Coaches Podcast, brought to you by New Money Habits and Sizemore Financial Coaching. Submit your questions to our hosts by emailing podcast@newmoneyhabits.com. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and join our growing group of like-minded coaches on Facebook. And until next time, happy coaching. Music provided by Summer School.